So as far as the Patriot movement, and that's what LWN is, we are part of many patriots out there searching for the truth and delivering the news like it should be delivered. All right, LWN for all your gold and silver needs, your 401k, your pensions, your retirements you'd like to flip over into self-directed IRA. You can reach out to me at lwnreloaded@gmail.com. I am now a licensed broker for Miles Franklin. Miles Franklin Precious Metals Investments. Boy, I tell you what, things are hot right now. The herd mentality has kicked into full gear. Do not get left behind. The CBDC just announced that they're going to open that plan here in April. April, which is less than a month away. Protect your assets, protect your retirement, protect yourself. Reach out to me, lwnreloaded@gmail.com. All right, LWN, just a couple more days left before the end of March, and we're going to do the coin giveaway. If you guys would like to get qualified for that, pretty simple. Buy me a coffee here within the next couple of days, or send me some stars over there on Facebook. That gets you qualified for the end of the month coin giveaway for March. We got January and February all taken care of. A lot of happy listeners out there who received their coins in the mail. I'm excited to send out a couple more at the end of March. Again, if you'd like to get qualified, buy me a coffee, send me some stars, get you qualified for the month of March, and then we'll be off to the races for the month of April. All right, welcome back, America. Welcome back to LWN. We've got another special guest tonight. First time guest here at LWN, and she's got an amazing story that she'd like to tell. And she actually has been a viewer. Her mother has been a faithful viewer for a long time, and we appreciate that. But they reached out to me and said, hey, there's something going on here at my place of employment. And I really, she stood up. She stood tall. She stood for what she believed in. And unfortunately, sometimes when we do that, there's repercussions for that. And, you know, some people will just bend, they'll just give in, they'll go along to get along. And this individual did not do that. She stood up and said, no, I'm not going to play that game. So with that being said, I have Amanda with me, who was now a former employee of Tractor Supply. And I think a lot of us around have been to Tractor Supply before. I know it was one of my favorite places to spend my paycheck when I lived in North Dakota. I would probably visit Tractor Supply a couple times a week at least. So it really saddens me that a place that I enjoyed to shop at really mistreats employees and pushes agenda and tries to force people into things that they don't want to do. So with that being said, I would ask Amanda to go ahead and join me here on screen. We're just going to have a very honest conversation, and I'm going to give her the opportunity to go ahead and tell her side of the story, tell us what it was like to work at Tractor Supply and everything that kind of went on during, well, the last couple of years, right? So Amanda, if you can find that camera button, you can go ahead and hit that. There you are. So how are you doing today, Amanda?
I'm doing well. How are you?
It is almost feels like a Saturday, but we're not quite there yet. So, we do the best we can with what we have, and that's kind of what you've done. And you definitely have a story to tell. And could you just maybe give the audience a little bit of your background? Like, who is Amanda?
Well, my name's Amanda. I currently live in Canton, South Ohio. I am a single mother. I have a 15-year-old daughter who's soon to be 16. Woo.
Woo.
Um, a lot of big things are going on with that. Um, like you said, in my introduction, I am a former employee of Tractor Supply. I currently work at Shears. It's a potato chip factory now, which is in Massillon, Ohio. Um, like I said, I worked for Tractor Supply for a year and a half, and I absolutely loved it
Mhm.
until everything just went sour quick because of an agenda that I didn't want to push.
When I went into Tractor Supply, the employees there were so kind. They were so helpful, good-hearted people. And Tractor Supply here in Idaho, we have a D&B, which is the same thing, Tractor Supply. It's a country store, right? It's down home country. I would go I got addicted to buying chickens. And so
A lot of people do.
I'm not kidding. At least twice a week, I'd go in there and buy 3 or 4 little baby chicks, right? And at one time, I had 65 chickens, I had 9 turkeys, and I had 4 guinea hens. And I actually built a really nice chicken coop for them, like a 10 by 20 chicken coop with windows, doors, you name it.
Oh, that's massive.
And I ended up losing them in a fire. But I absolutely loved Tractor Supply. Anytime I go in there to get fencing supplies, gardening supplies, anything like that, they were always so very helpful. And I just, the country lifestyle is something I've always been part of. I've always been drawn to. I know a lot of people like the big city. I like the country. I like the mountains. I love the lifestyle. So Tractor Supply just really fit my niche. It was something that was just I was always willing to spend money there. Now, I know that not everybody has those type of experiences, whether they go into a Tractor Supply or a Walmart or you name it. There are times that you go in there, you get bad service or whatever. But for the most part, I feel like Tractor Supply had a really good reputation in all states. And so you were employed with them. What was that like in 2018, 2019,
I
2020?
was employed from them from September of 2021 until January of 2023.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. If you came in to Tractor Supply in 2021, that was during the whole debacle. That was during the big lie, right?
Yes.
There was a lot of stuff going on. There were a lot of people pushing all kinds of agendas. I know a lot of us were forced to do things that we did not want to do. A lot of us might have skirted around the edges of that, did it maybe a little bit to go here or there. A lot of us said, no, I won't do it at all, meaning putting on the nasty diaper over your face. A lot of us just quit shopping at certain places that would push that agenda. So
Absolutely.
you came into a situation that was already rough, right?
Yeah, it was.
And so what was that like? I guess your interview. How did your interview go with Tractor Supply? Did they mention any of this stuff to you before they agreed to employ you? Did they tell you that these were going to be the standards that you would have to uphold?
No, this was nothing. None of what took place was part of anything when I was interviewed or given the opportunity to work there. None of these agendas were there. They did have the face diaper thing, but my mask that I wore was completely pointless, is what I called it, because you could blow right through my mask because it was nothing but rhinestones on a piece of cloth, and
Mhm.
you could blow right through it. And I told him, I said, well, it covers my nose and my mouth, so it should be acceptable. And they said, okay, well, you're right. So I did go along with that, but I
Okay,
had
hold on just a second. I love this. I've done so many shows on this. We've proven time and time again that the diapers don't work. So you before you got employed, you told them about a special cloth that you put over your face with rhinestones on it. Some people, I noticed during that time, some people would try to color coordinate their diaper with the clothing or the outfit they were wearing. Sometimes you'd see like elected officials that would have the exact same cloth that their shirt was to match. It was almost ridiculous, to be honest with you. I never did any of it. I put
if
on
you give me half a second, I can run back and get the mask and show it to you,
no,
and
that's all
you
right.
can giggle.
That's all right. But the point that I'm trying to make is during the interview, you told them, and I think this is a key point. You told them that you can breathe right through it. Hey, it covers my nose and my mouth. They agreed to that, which proves the point that this was nothing more than a compliance. Like they didn't care what it was that you put over your face as long as you put something over your face. People wore bandanas. Some people were real smart, you know what's, and they would buy cloth that was like see-through and put it over their face. They would use netting and put it over their face. And as long as you complied, as long as you did that, you were able to go anywhere in a lot of these stores. You know, Menards was another store in North Dakota, is much like Home Depot or Lowe's. I fought with those guys all the time. As I'd walk through the front door, they would hand me one of those things and I would grab it and just keep on walking. And they'd follow me through the store. Sir, you got to put this on. So there was no instructions. Like when you'd walk in, there was no instructions. It didn't tell me exactly how I had to wear it, so I'd put it on the back of my head. That they they would chase me around the store. Sir, you can't do that. Or I would put it on real quick for like 3 seconds as I walked past them. And as soon as I walked past them, of course, there were people in line behind me. They were focused on them. As soon as I walked past, I'd take it off. I'd shop all around the store without wearing one. And then the moment you get to the cash register, that's when tyranny reared its ugly head again. And they said, well, we can't allow you to pay for this stuff unless you have this on. I mean, I would sit there and argue with them. I'd argue scientific information with them. Of course, they didn't want to hear any of it. Sir, we're not here to argue with you. Again, my point is compliance. It didn't matter what you put on, as long as you put something on and you complied with the agenda.
Yep, absolutely.
So you agreed to this, they agreed to that, and you were employed.
Yep.
And so how did that go? How did the employment start out? Was it everything you thought it was going to be?
It was. It really was. And I took to that company very well, and I started doing um, extra special things for that company that other people didn't want to adhere to when it came to like the job performance and stuff like that at the company. I started getting the other workers to have fun with it, to make it part of their daily operations when they were there, to come and enjoy their job. So it was really kind of strange and bad when things went the way they did.
When they went sideways. So they Tractor Supply is a pretty big corporation. So did they have like good benefits? Did they have sick leave, vacation pay?
Yes, they
Did they have a
did.
401k? Did they have health insurance?
They had everything. It was a Fortune 500 company, and they offered you everything under the sun that they possibly could.
Mm.
And it was great. Everything was great until it wasn't. And it was just crazy.
You know, Tractor Supply, um, they have to adhere to board members and corporate the corporation and what they push, and that's the unfortunate thing. Um, a lot of these big companies, they're not able to make, in my opinion, the best decisions for the employees. It's all like very structured, very corporate, and very cold at times. But you felt a warmth there. You were so excited to be there and to be an employee. You were your joy was infectious. You were trying to spread that joy to the other employees, trying to get them involved, bring up morale. And as a former company owner, and I've ran multiple companies over the years, morale is a pretty big thing for me personally, as a CEO or as a general manager. If morale is not good with the employees, boy, that just leads to all kinds of unnecessary drama. So to have an employee like you that's going around cheerful, happy, and infectious, to where you're driving morale up, that would signal to me that that is an employee I need to keep my eye on, because they are um they're valuable to me, very valuable. So it sounds like you were a very valuable employee.
Yeah, they even made me the metrics, which are what I was infectious with of trying to get the other workers to have fun with, was what they called their metrics. So they made me their metrics coordinator, to where I was training the other workers how to be as cheerful and as chipper and as
Mhm.
morale boosting as I was. And they even gave me a raise to be the metrics coordinator. And I did so well with it that they actually received an award for the Maslin location store
Wow.
through the 2000 stores that they have. Our store, the Maslin location, was actually given the award for the highest metrics and throughout the whole entire company. And it was given in my name a month after I was let go from the company.
Wow, that's a pretty prestigious award there. That's a pretty big
Right.
deal. How was your relationship with customers coming through the door? Were you boots on the ground? Were you hands on? Did a lot of the customers love dealing with you? I mean, how was the morale of the customers in this branch of the store? And the reason why I'm asking is because they're in North Dakota. It was like a 50-50. There were cheerful people that came through that interacted with the employees, and it was and you could feel that kind of energy. And then there was oil filled guys that would just come in, and they were after one thing. They came in and they got it, and they got the heck out of there. It was very cut and dry. How was the store there where you guys were at in Ohio? Was it just a rush in type of thing, or did people come in? Some stores I can go in and spend an hour in there pretty easy. One, because the employees make it an enjoyable experience. Two, there's a huge selection, a lot to look at. I'm a browser. Like, I can go from one end of the store to the other end of the store and just burn time. I'm a window shopper too. So even if I don't have lots of money to spend, I still like to look, and I still like to get ideas of what I want to work hard toward. I set goals for myself. So how was it there in that store?
It was very welcoming. We were a very welcoming store. We treated every customer that came through like they were a part of our family, walking through our front door of our home. I had a very, very, very strong, awesome relationship with, I'd say, 75% of the customers.
Mhm.
Like you said, there are some that are just cut dry, come in to get what they want, leave, and then that's that. No conversation, no anything. But like I said, 75% of the customers, they openly mentioned that they would drive to our location just for the customer service that they were receiving at our location. And it had a lot to do with me, because we had a thing where customers could take surveys and send them into the company, and they would show on the computer screen at the service desk, and a lot of the surveys would come back and they would mention me. Just
So
Amanda was
what type
great.
of what type of responsibilities did you have in the store? Were you a checkout clerk? Were you a stocker? Did you do it all? What kind of responsibilities did you have there at Tractor Supply?
I was everything. I started out as a cashier, and their freight worker. And then I moved up from being a cashier freight worker to the team leader, which was right underneath the assistant manager. So I had a lot of different responsibilities, on top of just being a cashier and a greeter and a freight worker. Um, I had all the metrics that I had to keep up with. which which was our item of the month that we sold every month. We have offer it to the customers. Our private label credit card, which is a totally different scenario, but this was all part of the metrics. Our Neighbors Club signups, which was the reward program, and the Power Plus program, which was the extended warranty that Tractor Supply offered on certain items that we sold in the store. Those four things were primarily my responsibility because it was the metrics that I was to uphold for the company. And I did very, very well with every portion of those metrics. And like I said, I even got the other workers enticed and excited about promoting these things for the company. So
Yeah,
I was
I go into Cabela's a lot here in this town, and every associate that I run into, well, you can save 25% on today's sale if you get a Cabela's credit card. I said, if I get a Cabela's credit card, I will constantly be broke because I will be in here shopping all the time with this credit card. So I know what you mean by um instructing and teaching associates on how to sell the store. And that's really what Cabela's does too, is they're selling themselves, right? Tractor Supply has their own credit card, their own warranties, and you got to sell that. That's just being part of a salesman. And sounds like you were pretty good at it. What kind of as a single mom, what kind of education background do you have? Do you have like a master's or a doctor's? I mean, you go to 4 or 6 years of college to be this good at Tractor Supply?
No, honestly, I have a seventh grade education. I only went through the seventh grade due to things that took place with my parents and their divorce. So I only have a seventh grade education. I did go back, and I think it was 2011, and got my GED. I did go to 2 years of college, but it was for medical assisting,
Mm.
and that didn't pan out. The school got in trouble for scholarship fraud. So everybody's everything was considered null and void. So no, I don't have like any master's degree or any business management or anything like that. I just have my own God-given smarts and
Mhm.
talents, and I just run with it from there.
That's awesome. So you're a hard worker, obviously. You pick up things at a fast pace, and you became a very valuable employee. And I think sometimes that's the best employee I could possibly ever wish for. I've had people with all kinds of education and certifications and stuff come work for me over the years. Sometimes that's really good, and sometimes it's almost a hindrance, and it's almost better to build somebody up from the ground up. Somebody who doesn't have, I tell people all the time when it comes to, I'm an electrician by trade. So when it comes to an apprentice, I try to encourage my journeyman that would work under me, listen to the apprentice sometimes, because the apprentice will look at things so simple minded, because they don't have all the knowledge, they don't have all the experience in their brains, that are sometimes confusing or conflicting, or hey, I could do it six different ways. Sometimes just listen to that apprentice, because even though they don't have all the education or the experience background, they will look at things at a very sometimes simple-minded way. And your education, your background, that could be a hindrance, or it could be a huge advantage, because you're coming into Tractor Supply from the ground up and you see things a simple way. And the personality, everything that you had to offer to Tractor Supply sounds like it was a good chemistry. So here we are. We're employed at Tractor Supply. Things are going well.
Mhm.
What is it that takes a huge left turn for Amanda and Tractor Supply?
The new manager that they brought in. That's what took a major left turn was new management.
Sometimes that happens in business, man. When you change owners or you change management, I've been through it a lot. Sometimes management comes in and boom, um, it can get pretty sticky.
Oh, it got real sticky. Yes, very sticky.
So what happened?
Okay, well, everything was going good, like I told you. I do want to put out there about the CEO of the company came to the store and he wanted to meet me, and he dubbed me the credit card queen of Tractor Supply, because we had, when I lost my job at Tractor Supply, we had 1,388 credit card applications for the year of 2022. 700 or 678 of those credit cards were just mine.
So
So,
what you're talking about is every time you had an opportunity to talk to somebody like me who's in there buying chickens, hey LW, you could save 25% today on this sell if you would join the Tractor Supply credit card group. And so out of all those credit cards for 2022, over half of them were ones that you actually um got yourself.
absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I had a great spiel on what I would
Give me
use
your
to
spiel.
attract.
Give me your spiel. So I'm in Tractor Supply right now. I got one of those real skinny brown boxes full of the cutest little chicks that you could have possibly imagined. And I can't wait to get them home to my chicken coop. I'm getting ready to make the purchase, and you're there with me. What was your spiel?
Well, did you know you could save 20, you could get an extra $20 and save 5% and get 5% cash back on the TSC credit card just by signing up. You get $20 off your purchase, and you get 5% cash back. So that is 5 points per dollar instead of just one being a regular member. So your rewards rack up 5 times faster. So instead of having to spend $1,000 to get a reward, you'd only have to spend $200 to get a reward. So if you're in here shopping and you're spending two, three, $400, you're getting that 10, 20, $30 back the next time you come in. You'll have it, free to put
Mhm.
towards your next purchase. And they're like, oh, okay, that happens every time I use my card. Yes, it does. And it's 0% APR, and there's no interest as long as you pay your bill. And everybody would go, oh, okay, no APR, no interest. Sign me up.
That is
And
a
they would
good
get
deal.
signed up.
Man,
Mhm.
there's no Tractor Supplies around here.
So that, I mean, I even had other managers coming from other stores and standing there writing down my spiel word for word so they could take it back to their stores and teach their workers to use that to get credit cards. It was just phenomenal. I, I don't know, like people said I could sell leaves to a tree.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. Um, you can answer or don't have to answer. Do you miss working at Tractor Supply?
No. It was actually a blessing in disguise because I don't have to deal with the customers. I don't have to put on a a fake phony, hey, how you doing? I'm having a great day facade anymore. And I don't have to push the stuff that they wanted me to push for the amount that they wanted to pay me for what I had to do.
Hmm.
So
That
no,
happens. That
I don't
happens a
really miss
lot.
it.
That happens a lot in business. We're overworked, we're undervalued and underpaid, right? That happens here for me. So, being an electrician and having the education, the background experience that I had, the resume that I still hold, um, there were very few times that I had to work somewhere where I was undervalued and underpaid. It was very easy for me to make a couple of phone calls and move around. Um, that's construction. So the CEO comes and wants to meet you. Everything's going well, and then boom, here comes new management. So let's take the story to the new management. I'm going to give you the floor and let you tell everybody what happened, and I want to dive into this agenda and these things that they were trying to force you to push onto the customer, right?
Right. Yep. Yep, yep. It was crazy. Okay, we got a new manager who is ironically the brother of the manager that was there that initially hired me, which she was phenomenal. I had no problems with her, no issues, no anything. Well, she got promoted to the new distribution center for Tractor Supply that opened up here in Maslin, Ohio. So she took that position, which of course it came with 8 times more the pay. So she took
Hmm.
the position and they found a new store manager. Well, it happened to be her brother. Well, little did I know that her brother was of the gay department of people. I don't really know
So,
how to say that.
well,
He was
we can be kind about it for sure. So basically, the
right.
brother, his sexual orientation was the same sex, right?
Yes, it was. And I wasn't aware of it. It wasn't an issue because somebody's sexual orientation is none of my business.
Oh,
It has nothing to do with business or with running a country store or providing horse feed for a customer or something like that. So it didn't bother me because there was other people that were currently working at that location that were of the homosexual or lesbian orientation. No
mhm.
big deal.
And
It's your preference.
yeah,
No big.
we're not here to judge anybody. I don't think you are, and I sure am not either. That's something that is none of my business. What people do in their own bedroom is none of my business. I still love
Right.
those people.
Same here.
I don't have to agree with the lifestyle or what they do. And that's okay. They don't have to agree with me wanting to raise chickens, right? But the
Right.
fact of the matter is none of that stuff matters when it comes to job performance for me anyway. And
Absolutely.
unless they start dragging stuff like that in, then it becomes a problem. But for the most part,
Right.
they operate just like the rest of us. They are just as intelligent as the rest of us. They are equals, in my opinion. They are definitely equals. It's none of our business. Any of that stuff's none of our business. And I think that's the problem with people today is they take stuff like that, they politicize it, they dramatize it, they really use it um, sometimes to their advantage. Sometimes it's used against people for disadvantages. And that's unfortunate because it should be cut and dry. You're here to do a job. You do your job, you go home. What you do when you're at home, none of my business, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And
So
when,
why, I guess my question is, why did you bring up that why did you bring that up in this conversation?
well, because
Does this start playing into some of the stuff that they wanted you to push?
absolutely, it sure
Okay.
does. Um,
The reason why I have to say that is because I want the audience to know that there is a reason why she brought that up. Because some people will say, Why did she even bring that up?" Because there is a reason. It's in the
yes.
story here. So go ahead there, Amanda.
So the reason why I bring that up and was because when this new manager came to the store and we found out that he was of the homosexual orientation, all of a sudden the company started forcing the employees to sign a waiver of diversity and inclusion. But before the whole year I had been with the company, this was never part of the company. It was never part of their missions and values. There was no anything like that. It was just respect your teamwork or your team
Mhm.
members, go about your day, show respect, show, morals, and that was that. Well, when they brought in this man, Matt, Matt Little, whatever his name is, um, when they brought him in, it came with this diversity and inclusion contract that they forced us to sign in order to keep our employment
The
with the
employee.
company.
Let me ask
Right.
you, can you define for me and for the listeners what is diversity and inclusion mean? What did it state on that contract that you were having to sign? Can you explain that to us?
Yes, it was it had to do with if you were Asian, if you were white, if you were black, if you were Mexican, if you were from another country, it had to do with the LGBTQ people, the transgenders, the homosexuals, the lesbians. It was all part of you had to be diverse and accept and include every bit of those types of people into the workplace,
And
which was already
I
there
I don't
because of the
disagree.
no discrimination.
Yeah,
So I
I don't disagree either. they're already included. Like again, I don't care
Right.
what you do in the privacy of your own home. If you're here to work and you do your job and you do it well, that's really all that matters to me. I don't care what color, creed, what
Right.
culture,
Mhm.
what sex you are, what sex you want to be. I
Mhm.
doesn't matter to me. Now, if you start coming to work dressed as a clown, that might be a problem.
Right. And so
Because
I asked the new store manager what exactly was I signing? Can you explain to me what I am being forced to sign here with this diversity and inclusion contract? Can you explain it to me in further detail? And he said, well, it has to do with the LGBTQ people. And I was like, okay. Well, I had also mentioned the drag queen story hour that they put on in Texas for the elementary students.
and this was
And
Tractor Supply.
Tractor Supply funded
So,
this.
okay, so
And
hold
I
on.
asked
Let's
him
hit the
if
pause. Let's hit the pause button for just a minute here. Because you're starting to pick up speed. So, folks, Tractor Supply, and again, I'm not here to hurt Tractor Supply in any way. I just wanted to give Amanda a platform to tell her story. Um, Tractor Supply sponsored an event down in Texas for the Drag Queen Story Hour. Again, if you want to be a drag queen, if you want to be a cross dresser, if you want to be a transgender, I don't care. Like, as long as it's not affecting or harming me or my children or anyone else. Now, when you have men dressing up as women and going and reading stories to kids, I think that is harmful. I think it's very harmful. So I disagree with story time. I really disagree with it. I don't think that our young children, I don't think any children should be subject to anything like that. That is social, a social and a very intimate thing that people choose to do is to cross dress or change genders or whatever. And subjecting children to that, especially at such a young age when their minds aren't even fully developed, it's very confusing to children. And I think it's done by design. So when you found this out, um, you obviously was not happy about it. And so you wanted to know more about what you were signing. And again, why do we to me that's it's another form of division. Like we're now pitting, straight people against gay people or whatever by announcing this and saying you have to accept this and you have to sign this. We already accept them. Why do we have to sign anything? Why does there need to be a contract? In my opinion, working uh in corporate America, it's a catch you thing. So if you sign that document, they've got you. If you say anything derogatory toward one of those people, they use it to their advantage again for lawsuits and all kinds of things. They use it for hate speech and all this other stuff. Even though they can hate against conservatives and Christians, and there's no pushback for that. If we say anything that they dislike against the LGBTQ AI plus 4270, I don't know all the different things that come with that whole group of people, they're people. They're people just like me. They choose other things in their life. That's up to them. But why do we need to pronounce this? Why does it need to be such a huge deal that I recognize these people and that I sign a document that states I'm going to include them and not harass them? That's just the way life should be. Period. We should accept
yeah,
one another for who we are. Doesn't mean I have to accept your lifestyle or promote it or support it, but as an individual, I accept you.
right. Yeah, that diversity and inclusion contract also came with an arbitration contract that you had to sign as well.
Can you explain that?
The arbitration was to where would not bring any of the company into any sort of court hearing to subdue them to any sort of court process or suing them or anything like that if they did anything to you that you didn't like or that you could get them in trouble for.
Mm, that doesn't sound
So
cool.
no, so I started questioning why do I need to all of a sudden sign all of these things? And why is everybody failing to explain these things to me in detail of what exactly you want me to sign? That's when everything went bad. is
Hmm.
when I started questioning why I need to sign these things.
Now, what's going on here in America today? There's a lot of this inclusion and all this stuff that they're forcing. Our public education system is the worst right now. It's so broken, and this is a big part of it. Inclusion, and diversity, bringing in individuals. Again, if they want to come to school, and do their job, that's one thing. But when they start pushing their morals, their values, their lifestyle on our children, that's wrong. I mean, we can't come in and push Christianity on the children. That's a big no-no. So why is it okay for these people to push their lifestyle? That is, again, in my opinion, by design to confuse all of us, especially our children. We're going to have generations of kids that don't know if they're male or female because they've been groomed, indoctrinated, to this madness, and that's what it is. So what I guess my point is, this madness is spreading everywhere. It's not just in the schools, not just in our government. I mean, you've seen Joe Biden pick um the health secretary, what's Steven, he goes by Rochelle now. I don't know. It's clown world for me. But you're seeing it in our government, in our schools. You're seeing it everywhere, and it's starting to really invade every area of our lives. And that's why I thought that this story was so important to talk about, a place that I used to go to a couple of times a week, and I used to spend a lot of money. This is affecting, this is an infection that is infecting almost every part of our lives. So you were not happy. Nobody seemed to be able to explain in detail why they were trying to force you to sign these documents. They were just telling you, Amanda, you sign these documents or you're no longer employed, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
where does the story go from there?
Well, shortly after I started questioning why I need to sign these things, or can somebody explain these things to me in detail because I don't understand your fine print, things started going sour from there. Um, I started losing hours. My
So hold
manager
on
would,
just a second. Hold on just a second. So before all this happened, were you a 30-hour a week employee, 40-hour a week employee? Did you work overtime? Did you work weekends? Did you work holidays? Were you one of those people that if they called and needed help, you were the first one to step forward?
yes, sir. I was a full time worker. I worked holidays. I worked overtime. If they needed me to come in on my days off, I would.
Mhm.
If they needed me to stay, I would. Yes, I was. Yes, that place
You
was
were
like my
dedicated.
second home.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
I
were
was very
dedicated.
dedicated.
So now all of a sudden they start cutting hours. So this is, um, you can call it several different things: punishment, retribution, you know,
Retaliation.
retaliation against you, questioning things. I've been there, done that. I've had the same things happen to me too.
Mhm. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So they cut hours. What else did they do?
They cut my hours. They actually took my, I had 60 something hours worth of vacation time that I had earned over the time that I was there and I became management. I started earning vacation hours.
Mhm.
Um, this new manager took, like, I think it was a couple weeks before I had lost my job. He took all my vacation hours and put them in the computer as they were sick pay and no longer vacation earned. So when I lost my job, I no longer had those vacation hours either, like
They did,
66 hours worth.
so they didn't pay you for them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay,
no, they didn't pay me.
because when I've left jobs before, my vacation pay, they usually they pay you out, right? They even
No,
even
they
in
didn't pay me.
sick hours, I think some places, if it's earned like that, they may compensate you for that. So basically, they moved hours around to where they didn't have to pay you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and
Yep.
did you file a claim against them with unemployment or anything
Yeah,
like that?
I contacted the corporation about it, and it took them like a month to get back to me about it. And the lady said, well, we don't owe you for all of those hours because our records don't indicate that we owe you for all of those hours. And I'm like, but I have the proof because I would print out my pay stubs and stuff like that. And so I sent her all of that proof. I have the proof that these hours is what I earned. So I feel I am entitled to those.
Hmm.
And she said, well, no, you're not because our records don't indicate that we owe you that. And I was like, okay. So she got back to me probably about 2 weeks later and she said, well, we do owe you for 26 hours of vacation time. And I said, well, what about the other 40 that you owe me? And she said, well, our records don't indicate that. And I'm like, okay, so that was supposed to be $425 they owed me. They sent me $278 and told me to have a good day.
Mm.
And I
What
went,
what
but it
other
was over 1,000 that they owed me.
mm, what other things did they do to you because you wouldn't sign this documentation? Did anything happen with management? Sometimes you get like a cold shoulder, and I'm not trying to lead the witness here by any means. I'm just telling you personal stuff that I went through. You get the cold shoulder. Other employees would get involved and they would treat you differently too. I mean, I've had, you name it, I've had it done. Was that just it? They cut your hours and when you left, they didn't pay you for the vacation that you earned, or was there other things that you had to endure? I guess here's the question. How long after you wouldn't sign this new contract with them for the inclusion and diversity did you stay employed?
Um, roughly a month.
So around
Roughly,
30 days.
yes, roughly 30 days. And I was also told that there was other workers that had made reports of allegations against me because I refused to sign the diversity and inclusion contract. So they felt like I was mistreating them or not being respectful of them or not wanting to accept them. So they started all giving me the, like you said, the cold
Mhm,
shoulder. My tasks that I was responsible for were changing per
mhm,
shift. They were
mhm.
never the same anymore. Every shift, it was something different.
Different. Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, I started being told that I was doing things incorrectly, that I had been doing the whole time I was there. And it's like, how could I did it for a year and a half this way, and now all of a sudden it's incorrect? And I'm
Well,
like, wait a
what
minute, what?
what we call that in corporate America, because again, I've been part of it, is we're building a case.
Yes.
There would be an employee that would be a problem employee for me, and I'm not talking about you or your skill set. I'm talking about as a manager and being in management and being in the corporate world for myself personally. If I had a problem employee that showed up late all the time, was very argumentative, was completely insubordinate, did rogue things, got caught doing things that they shouldn't be doing. In the corporate world, you can't just let somebody go because a lot of times there can be recourse. And so what you have to do is what we call build a case. So a lot of times with a problem employee, I would have to give them a written but verbal warning first, and you start building a paper trail. Then the next time that they do something they're not supposed to do, then it's their first real written warning. And usually it's a three strike rule in all the places I've ever worked. By the time you get your second written warning, then that gives me what I need as building a case against them to show and prove to the rest of corporate that hey, this employee is insubordinate, it's late all the time. We've built the case, it's in writing, they've been talked to verbally, they had to sign the written warnings too, so that they knew that I was giving them a written warning, so they understood. And the reason for that is you're giving them an opportunity to correct behavior,
That's
right?
the funny thing.
So some people, some people, if you give them a verbal, boom, they spin right out of it. They correct behavior and they become a good employee again. Sometimes it takes a written warning before that happens. Some people never get it, and you have to let them go. So was there a case built against you, Amanda? Because it sounds like there were employees of a certain group with a certain sexual orientation that are now feeling threatened by you, whether it's on their own or if they are being coerced into feeling that way because certain people are trying to push an agenda to release you of employment. So they're encouraging these people to do stuff like this. So they're writing complaints against you that they feel like you're now not respecting them, accepting them, which is total hogwash in my opinion. Um, so what's going on? Did you have any types of written warnings against you?
No, I had didn't receive any written warnings. I didn't receive any verbal warnings. I didn't receive any sort of reprimandations or anything like that for anything. I had zero behavioral issues at that store. Not a single talking to, not a simple anything. There was nothing.
But
And
like me, I'm sure you could feel the energy that they were trying to push you out the door, right? Because
absolutely.
I've been in situations where you can feel that they're trying to show you the exit. Like they're encouraging you by changing your tasks every day. They're making it very difficult for you to do your job in hopes that you're going to get frustrated enough to say, you know what, I'm throwing the towel in, I'm out of here. See you guys later. And
Absolutely.
that also works in construction. I've done that myself too, to encourage people that maybe it's time for you to look elsewhere. And that's what you felt was going on at Tractor Supply. So I'm sure you felt a sense of frustration, an anger, even like, hey, I've been here for over a year and a half. I've been recognized as a very good employee. The CEO came and met me. Other managers are coming and following my example of how to encourage people to get a Tractor Supply credit card. You're very bubbly. You've been promoted and given more responsibilities. So this is a huge shock to you, and it's been a huge shock to me too. And in my career of one day everything is so great, and the very next day it almost becomes a nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with you with that. Yes. It was totally bizarre. It
So
was like heartbreaking.
how did it make you feel?
It broke my heart. I left out of there in tears, which it's gonna make me cry now. I left out of there in tears because I gave everything of myself to that company. I would
So
thrive on having to go there and work for them.
so you felt abandonment,
Yep.
you felt betrayal.
Oh, I felt serious betrayal. I felt used, and I felt like I was like, how could you just do that? I was everything. This company was everything to me, and I was everything to that company, and I was recognized for it. I mean, I was even there. They even got an award for my performance, and all I got was pretty much the shaft. And I still to this day never received any sort of recognition or anything for that company. It's like they completely just washed their hands of me and said, that's it.
And so
I'm
it's
like,
it's your belief. It's your belief that this is simply over an issue that you accepted people for who they were,
"Mhm,
but because you wouldn't put it in writing, they turn their backs on you.
yep. They completely turn their backs on me 100%.
Well, I'm sorry for your pain. I'm sorry that you had to go through this and that it's still very emotional for you. It's still very raw. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to come on camera and at least talk about it. Um, you know, it's something that I think people need to be aware of, that again, this isn't just in our schools, it's not just in our government. This is starting to reach all areas of our life. And for those of us who are out there trying to make a living and counting on companies and mom and pop shops and other places to employ us so that we can make a paycheck to feed our kids, and being a single mother, that's a strain on you. So for you
Completely.
to have to go through something like this when you're sitting there trying to raise your children, um, it's probably even more magnified than it is for a couple who, at least if mom loses her job or something, dad's still providing and mom has time to go out and look for another job. But how did the employment end? How abrupt was it? Was it like they called you in the office and said, listen, today's your last day, we're letting you go? Was it something that was on your terms, you walked out? How did the termination of your employment at Tractor Supply end?
Well, actually, we had an online scheduling service that we could look at through our phones to check our schedules because the manager liked to randomly change people's schedules and you wouldn't know about it. So I was off on a Friday and something told me just check your schedule because you're off today but you're supposed to work tomorrow, but just check your schedule. So I checked my schedule and it showed that I was scheduled to work on the 20th of January and I was scheduled off on the 21st of January. But the schedule that I had posted on my refrigerator showed that I was scheduled to work the 21st and I was off the 20th. So it didn't make sense why the online schedule said one thing, but the paper schedule said another. So I said, okay, well, it says I'm supposed to be at work this day. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into work. Well, I went into work and they had two managers scheduled to work that day. So I was kind of curious. They've never had two managers scheduled to work. So I was like, okay, why am I scheduled with another guy, with another manager? But I was only scheduled from 12 to 8 and the store didn't close until 9. Well, other guy was scheduled to come in and work from 2 to 9. So I was like, wait a minute. So I asked the assistant manager, why is there two managers scheduled today? And he was like, oh, well, it was just an error in the computer and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, okay. Well, probably about 2 hours into my shift, here comes the store manager walking into the store. And I'm like, he's scheduled off today. Why is he here? So I asked him, I said, well, what are you doing here? You're scheduled off today. And he said, oh, well, we got to have a meeting in the office. And I'm like, okay. So we
Okay, so
go
hold on a
into the
second. Hold on. When he says we need to have a meeting in the office, is he talking about the whole store, all the employees we're going in, or is he saying we, meaning you and me have to have a meeting?
well, that's another thing. He with all the stuff that had taken place over the month before I lost my job, the new store manager wanted to have meetings where there was no witness.
Mm,
It was
that's not
just
good.
me and him. So the day he fired me, um, he wanted to have a meeting with just me. And I told him, I'm going to need a witness because of the things that have been going on over the past month. I need a witness to be in there. So it was a meeting between me, him, and the assistant manager.
Hmm.
And I walked in and he hands me this post-it note, little post-it note with 5 different allegations on it as to why I was being terminated. And
So
that was
again,
it. There was no
no
written.
no written warning, no legitimate documentation. Now, again, I've been in management for a long time. We had letterheads on all of our written notices. Anytime I had to let somebody go, I always had my assistant there with me as a witness, or I'd pull the secretary in, whatever I had to do. But I never had meetings alone with anybody because allegations, sexual assault allegations, even a man on man. I've had um, I've had to write a gentleman up in Wyoming for sexual harassment on other men. That's no joke. So I learned early in my career that you really need to make sure that there's always a third person in the room. Unless it was really, really bad, I'd leave my door open too. But if it was really bad, I'd always have a closed door policy. But these are things that sometimes you go through training for. Sometimes the corporation will put you through management training. A lot of this stuff, I just a school of hard knocks for me. Um, So they pull you in the office and they give you a sticky note with 5 allegations against you. How um, unprofessional, inappropriate. I could go down a whole long list of things that this person is, as manager, is doing wrong. And if they've been in the company long enough, they should know this.
Yeah, you would think. And I asked him, I said, well, do you have dates and times of these said allegations? And he's like, no, I don't have to provide those for you. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to defend myself on said allegations if I don't even know when these took place?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it clicked in my head. Oh, they're not wanting a defense on these allegations. This is just what they're doing just to get rid of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay.
So did you just accept it, Amanda, and walk out?
I did. I just went to my locker and I started unloading my locker, and the store manager got really, like, really, really close to me. And I told him, you need to back away from me. And he's like, you can't talk to me like that. And I looked at him and I said, what are you going to do? Fire me again? Get the heck away from me. And then they escorted me out of the store like I was going to do something. And I'm like sitting here, like, no, guys, I'm going to walk out with my pride and my dignity and leave you guys here without yours.
That's
And that's what I did.
that's normal protocol. I've been fired before. When I cleaned my desk and stuff out, I had somebody standing right there in the office, like I'm gonna steal
Right.
a stapler or something, I
Am I
guess, or
going to
some
stick this?
sticky
Am I
notes.
going to stick his
I've
locker in
been
my pocket or something?
I've been escorted out, and I've done the same to others. When I've had to let people go, I've had to have somebody stand there as they cleaned out their locker, their gang box, or stuff out of the truck, so they didn't take company tools, and escorted them off the property. That's pretty normal protocol and procedure for a
Right.
corporation or for most companies nowadays, and I understand that part of it. But
Right.
the whole sticky note thing, not really giving you an opportunity to ever really change behavior. It was almost like a little bit of a witch hunt, and that's just my own opinion. Um, Again, we're getting Amanda's side of the story. Tractor Supply, I'm sure, has their own side of the story as well. But bottom line is, it seems like there was a lot of things there, red flags to me, that wasn't done properly. And the point of this whole story is this: we, at least a lot of us, and it's even a struggle for us at times. We're taught to love the sinner, not the sin, to accept people for who they are, but we don't have to support their lifestyles or the things that they do. Uh, and that's what we try to follow our lives by. And some of us do really good at it. Some of us don't do so good. Some of us fail. Whatever. The point is you already accepted these people for who they were. They were just coworkers, employees of the store. As long as they showed up and they did their job, that's all that mattered to you. When they went to pushing this agenda to where you had to recognize them specially and sign a contract, which to me sounded a little bit squirrely, where they didn't want to get in any type of lawsuits. That's where you kind of drew the line and said, listen, I'm a great employee. I accept these people for who they are. I don't need to do any of this other stuff. This is just not going to work for me. That's when things really twisted off and got um, very abusive. I call that abuse. When you're constantly changing people's schedules, when you're constantly changing responsibilities daily and telling somebody after a year and a half you're doing it wrong. To me, that's a form of abuse, and that again is trying to get you to throw the towel in and to move on. That's not right. They should have one. If you were a great employee, they should have given you an opportunity by written notice to change behavior. And then if that didn't work, they should have done the right thing and just you know, ask you to leave in a better way. And I again, I feel sorry for the pain that you had to go through, because it sounded like you truly enjoyed what you did. You were good at it. And I've had the same thing happen to me, man. I've been the best general manager they've ever had at a company. I've been the best foreman. I've been the best shop foreman they've ever had. And like I said, one day everything's great, and the next day I wake up to a nightmare. And it's due to change of management. It's due to companies selling, companies closing their doors, all kinds of different issues that cause these things to happen in employees' worlds, and some of the stuff we're not privy to behind closed doors, what's going on with the corporation. But a lot of times the employee falls victim to that stuff. And so we're not victims here because there's a silver lining to this story. I haven't heard it yet, but I feel in my heart that there is a silver lining to the Tractor Supply story because you said, and I picked up on it, you said it was actually a blessing in disguise. So, can you please give us the conclusion to Amanda's story? Where are you today? And why do you feel like that was a blessing in disguise? Because obviously, as a single parent, you can't stay unemployed forever. You've got
Right.
responsibilities, you got children to raise. So it sounds like you're employed now. So can you give us the rest of the story? That almost sounded like Paul Harvey. Do you want me to say it like Paul Harvey? Now for the rest of the story.
um, well, when I say it's a blessing in disguise, it really is because when I was working for them, I was working 5 or 6 days a week, and it was anywhere from 8 to 11 hours a day. Um, and then when the hours started going away, it started becoming, I was becoming financially unstable, and I'm like, I just can't do this. And then when I actually lost my job, where I went to where I'm at now, the job that I'm at now, I only work 3 days one week, 4 days the next week, and vice versa. But I also make $2 more an hour than I did at Tractor Supply, and the job is 100 times easier than working for Tractor Supply.
Mhm.
It's not a bunch of heavy lifting. It's actually great because where I'm at now, I have a set schedule. I have my schedule until the end of the year. So now I can plan things with my daughter. I can do things with my daughter, and I make $2 more an hour than I made at Tractor Supply. So when I say blessing in disguise, that's what I mean. It's a steady knowing of when I have to work versus when I don't have to work. Plus, it's more income.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean by blessing in disguise. And I don't have to deal with customers.
Well, I think you enjoyed dealing with customers,
I did, but
but it is an easier job and God's looking out for you and definitely getting a $2 an hour raise, having a set schedule, working 3 on, 4 off, 4 on, 3 off. That's a great schedule. I've had that too. One of the best schedules I ever had was 6 on, 8 off, 8 on, 6 off, and that was a great schedule.
right.
It allowed me for some overtime, and then it also allowed me to have a lot of time off at home with the family. So, you know, sometimes in the moment when we're being released or we're forced to quit or whatever, it's very stressful, and it's very hurtful, especially when you have given everything that you possibly can to that company and you feel like you have just really gone above and beyond, which I have many, many times gone above and beyond what it was ever required of me. And for them
Mhm.
to turn around and you feel like you have been abandoned and you have been absolutely their backs turned on you and had gone through a little bit of abuse. Um, it just really in that moment, it feels like, man, what did I do so wrong? And this hurts. It hurts deep. I remember the very first company that I got fired from was one that I did like you. I went above and beyond. I became the shop foreman. I really built this company from the ground up. They had no experience, no clue what they were doing. They'd been watching me for months, working for a different company. They solicited me. um, they approached me, they had a meeting with me, they hired me to come in and turn their company around and build it from the ground up. I did that for them. And when they came in and fired me over a scheduling issue, um, I had just had my first kid was born. She was brand new. And I remember I couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. It hurt so bad.
Yeah.
But I had a hard time getting out of bed and even functioning Now, my kid's mom, she worked, she was off to work. I was home taking care of the kid. I had a hard time taking care of my daughter because I just could hardly get out of bed. I'd given so much to that company, and it was over a scheduling issue where there was two partners. I got along great with the one, and the other partner to this day, I still think he's an idiot. Um, and so he scheduled my crews to work two jobs that day, and it was the finish work on a house. And when you go into a house doing the finish work and what we call the trim on electrical, there'll be trim carpenters in there, heating guys, plumbers putting in sinks and faucets and all this stuff. But the worst to work with, unfortunately, are carpet layers, because carpet layers take up so much, right? And they have to have the heat turned up in the house to like 80 degrees to stretch the carpet.
Great.
And electricians make a big mess when they're going around cutting wires, stripping wires, and so we can create a mess that gets in the way of the carpet layers, especially if you don't clean up your mess, right? It's just a really bad combination to have other trades in there at the same time that carpet layers are in there. Whether you're a plumber, electrician, heating guy, whatever, when the carpet layers are in there, they should be in there alone, right?
Right.
We
Yeah.
had two jobs, and both houses that we had to do were like two or three houses apart. It wasn't like we had to drive all the way across town or anything. It was in the same subdivision for the same builder on the same street, just two houses apart. So he had scheduled us to go into the one house. I go in there as the foreman, and carpet layers are in there. So I go to the guy and I say, "Hey, where are you guys going next?" Well, they were going to go to the house that we were scheduled, the same house that we were going to be scheduled. So the carpet layers were scheduled on both houses at the same time we were. And I said, "Well, how about if I do this? How about if I take my crew and I go down to the other house, I knock it out real quick, because we could get it done in 3 or 4 hours, and then we'll just swap with the
Great.
carpet layers." I don't know. It sounds like good common sense to me, right? And as a foreman, that's probably a call I should make. So I take my guys, I go down to the other house, I pull them all out of this one, and go down there and start working. And the owner of the company, I don't agree with. The guy I still think is still an idiot. He rolls up to the job site and he comes walking in, and you could tell he was pissed, right? It was a control thing for him. Him and I were already button heads because I was telling him, you're definitely not doing things how they should be done. He didn't like hearing that. So he comes in, he sees that we're working. He goes, "Mike, come here. I want to talk to you." So he calls me outside and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I go, "What does it look like I'm doing?" "We're working," right? He goes, "Why aren't you down there on that other house?" And I said, "Well, did you happen to drive by that other house? Did you happen to see that there were other people working in there?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, they're carpet layers." Well, this is summertime. So when the carpet layers crank the heat up to 80 degrees to stretch the carpet, and it's summertime, that house gets hot. Like you're just sweat from head to toe. I don't like being hot like that. I'll go into a house and I'll have one of the apprentices go out. The first thing you do is hook up the AC, and I crank that baby up. Let's have some nice, cool working conditions. Right?
Water and electric don't work too well.
Well, that's true, but I like to have the AC going, so it's just what I prefer when I'm working. So he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I pulled everybody off of there and come down here because it's just too chaotic. It makes more sense to knock this one out and then we'll switch." He goes, "Well, I don't care. I scheduled that other job to be done first. That's where you should be." I just looked at him. I'd had enough. I knew that this wasn't going to work out for me. And I said, "Well," I looked right at him and I said, "Well, you're an idiot." And it was a union company. So he goes, "You know what? You just earned a pink slip." And I said, "Let me have it." So he went to his truck and opened the door, pulled out his little pink slip thing and wrote me a pink slip, which when you get a pink slip, that you're getting fired, right? Um, and
Yeah.
it was just one subdivision over from where I lived. So I said, "All right, that's fine." I had a company truck and everything. I went and grabbed my tools, and my brother was working for me at the time, and he goes up to him and he says, "Well, if you fire me, or if you fire my brother, you're firing me." So my brother walked off the job too. So he lost two of his best guys. And I
Oh
kid you
my
not,
goodness.
I'm walking down the road with my tool bag and it's only a couple of blocks to my house. And he comes pulling up. He knew he messed up and he pulls up and he says, "Hey," he goes, "Hey, Mike, um, can I give you a ride home?" And I'm like, I used some choice words. I walked home. But so I get home and again, you know, that was probably I think like on a Friday. It was toward the end of the week. I remember that following Monday. I'm used to getting up. I'm used to getting ready to go to work. You know, I was always at the office at 5:30 in the morning. And I remember that Monday just being sick to my stomach, you know. I'd lost it all. I'd worked so hard to build the company. I worked so hard to train the crews. I worked so hard to set up the trucks the way they should be set up. It was a lot of work. I worked my tail off. I sacrificed a lot of time with my family
Yeah.
to make sure that this was going to work out for them, for the owners of the company. You know, I made them a lot of money.
Yep.
And it was just unfortunate that the one individual just he didn't like the fact um that I had a lot of the control. And I understand that, but you hired me to do the job. And so anyway, I know what it's like to lose a job. I know how it feels and I'm sorry you had to go through that. But again, the silver lining to this story is the fact that now you have a better job, better pay, better hours, set schedule. It was a blessing in disguise. And let's just hope and pray that this whole LGBTQ transgender movement doesn't infiltrate every place in America. And it's up to you and me to stop that and to not allow that to be an ideology that every place out there in America adopts. What they do on their own time is their own business. I don't care as long as they show up and they do their job. And again, back to the whole comment about as long as they don't show up dressed as a clown. Um, I heard this young lady at breakfast the other morning complaining because she had all these pins through her nose and up by her eyes and all this weird makeup on. Her hair was 14 different colors. I love tattoos, but she had them all up her neck and on her hands and very, very gothic looking. And um, it's a distraction. And she was complaining to the person she was eating breakfast with because she's like, well, nobody will give me an opportunity and they look at me a certain way. And she was excited because there was a company that the manager said, you know what, I'll take a chance on you. And she was grateful for that. And I don't think that people should be judged by their outer appearance. But when you come to work dressed as a clown, um, expect to be treated like you are part of the circus. If you want a legitimate job, then maybe you should dress the part. You know, maybe you should take some of that stuff out. Maybe you should cover up some things. Maybe you should dress. It's kind of like going into be to interview as a bank teller, and you come in with flip flop shorts and a tank top on. Who's going to take you seriously, right? If you're going to interview for a bank position, I would say as a lady, you should probably come in a dress, and a man, you should probably come in suit and tie. That's just me. But if as long as people come to work and do their job and they're not a distraction, meaning dressed as a clown, I don't have any problem with it. And there's no judgment there. Now, if you want to go home and put all those piercings in your body and go out on a Friday and Saturday night and put, 18 different colors of makeup on your eyelids and all this weird stuff that they do nowadays, more power to you. That's great. Maybe if your date enjoys that type of look, you guys can go out and have a great time, dinner and a movie and bowling or whatever. But when it comes to work, I think you should dress the part, dress professional, act professional, be professional. And as long as you're doing that, I could care less what your sexual orientation is. I can care less what gender you want to be, as long as you're not coming to work again as a distraction, coming to work one day wanting to be a man, coming to work the next day wanting to be a woman. And on Friday, hey, guess what? I want to be a cat. Meow, meow, meow. As long as you're not doing that kind of nonsense, then I could care less if you're a transgender or not. Just
Right.
don't be a distraction, and don't dress as a clown, and don't do that nonsense. It's just common sense.
Right. Absolutely. It is common sense. And that's what a lot of people lack these days. Common sense is not so common.
I think I've heard your mom say that before. So, I always give my my guest a final thought. It can be anything you want it to be, Amanda. Maybe it be some encouragement for our listeners. Um, you know, maybe there's a listener out there right now that is going through this, or has gone through this, or maybe, in the future they might have to go through something like this. So you can give them advice. It's your final thought, whatever you'd like to say. Floor is yours.
All righty, guys. Well, I've learned the hard way and I took my own advice, and you have a gut instinct for a reason. If your gut instinct is telling you that something just isn't right with a situation, a person, or a thing, or anything, what have you, if your body is picking up on those vibrations, or just the instinct that just something isn't right, don't ignore it. You might lose everything in the process from not ignoring that instinct, but you know what? It could be a blessing in disguise that you're not aware of.
Amen.
So don't ever ignore your gut instinct. It is an instinct for a reason, and our human bodies will pick up on vibrations that are conscious, or our eyes or our minds don't pick up on directly. So just don't ignore your gut instincts ever, no matter what it is.
I think that's great advice for all listeners tonight. So thank you so much for giving me your time, Amanda. I'm glad I could offer you a platform to tell your story. I think it's an important story. I think it really can hit home to a lot of people. A lot of people can relate to what you have had to go through. I know I do. I've been through it many a times. So thank you so much. And to the audience tonight, thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, and share. And as always, God bless each and every one of you. We'll catch you on the next one.
God bless you, Mike.
Introducing MyPillow 2.0, all new MyPillow 2.0 fabric with temperature regulating technology. Sounds absolutely amazing. If you call in today or go to mypillow.com and use promo code LWN, it is buy one, get one free today. MyPillow 2.0. Don't go to bed without it.
Hoping for a sincere performance, but open to finding the moment, to finding out where I'm headed now. Looking for a sign of disaster, so I can make it there faster. I'm weighing the consequences out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation, but I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I can blend in with the crowd. I'm so scared, so damn afraid to look. I'm so sick of talking. I'm wearing the words out, words out. I can see in all directions. It's all open to interpretation. But I see colors that are breaking from the other side, the other side. When I make mountains out of summer trails, when I buckle under all the details, I'll keep going till I make it to the other side, the other side. When it feels like everyone's out to get